The dawn broke over the valley in shades of gold and ash, spilling light across fields still heavy with dew. A soft wind stirred the wheat, whispering secrets of change to those who cared to listen. Far above, the mountains loomed like ancient sentinels, their peaks veiled in morning mist. To most, it was an ordinary day, quiet, unremarkable, destined to fade into the rhythm of countless others. But for Alara, it would be the day everything began to shift. Yet, in her heart, there was a restless spark, a sense that life held more than the repetitive routine of chores, tending gardens, and caring for the few animals her family owned. That spark rarely showed itself, kept buried beneath humility and practicality, but it was there. It was on a day much like any other that fate intervened. Alara was returning from the well, balancing the last bucket of water on her hip, when she heard a sudden scream echoing from the nearby forest. It was sharp, urgent, and filled with fear. Her heart leapt. Instinctively, she ran toward the sound, her feet moving faster than they ever had before. The trees parted to reveal a small clearing. There, a child, a young girl no older than 7, was cornered by 3 roguish men. Their clothes were ragged, weapons crude but threatening, and their faces twisted with greed. The child backed away, clutching a small satchel to her chest, her eyes wide with terror. Alara's mind raced. She had no combat training, no experience facing bandits, yet she could not stand by. She clenched her fists and stepped forward. "Leave her alone," she shouted, her voice small but firm, carrying through the clearing. The rogues turned, sneering. "And who's going to stop us, little Omega?" one jeered. "You? You can't even lift that bucket properly." Alara's stomach tightened, but she refused to retreat. Instead, she scanned her surroundings for anything that could help. The forest was thick, but nearby branches and rocks could serve as weapons or distractions. Her mind worked quickly, formulating a plan despite the fear gnawing at her chest. "You're making a mistake," she said calmly, though her pulse pounded. "If you don't leave this child alone, you'll regret it." The leader of the rogues laughed and took a step forward. "We'll see about that." Alara's hand darted to the satchel on the ground beside the child. She lifted it slightly, causing it to jingle. The child gasped, and one of the rogues turned, distracted by the movement. Seizing the moment, Alara grabbed a long branch from the ground and swung it with all her strength, striking the leader in the shins. He stumbled, cursing loudly. The other 2 rogues turned, surprised by the sudden resistance from someone so small and seemingly powerless. Alara didn't wait for hesitation. She kicked up a cloud of dirt, aimed for their feet, and hurled stones with remarkable precision, honed from years of work and survival. The men stumbled, their formation broken. "Run," she shouted to the child. "Now." The girl didn't hesitate. Together, they sprinted through the forest, Alara keeping herself between the child and the rogues, throwing rocks to slow their pursuers. Her legs burned, lungs heaving, but she pushed onward, refusing to look back. After what felt like an eternity, they reached a hidden creek, and the child collapsed beside it, sobbing and trembling. Alara knelt beside her, placing a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's over. You're safe now." The girl looked up at her, eyes wide with gratitude and awe. Thank you. I don't know who you are, but you saved me." Alara smiled gently, brushing dirt from the child's hair. "You're welcome. But you need to get home. Can you tell me where that is?" The child nodded, describing the way back to her small village on the outskirts of the forest. Alara escorted her carefully, ensuring they avoided the paths the rogues had taken. Along the way, the girl clutched the satchel to her chest, occasionally glancing at Alara with wide-eyed wonder. As they reached the edge of the village, Alara realized the child's words carried weight beyond mere gratitude. "You've shown great courage today," the girl said softly. "Not many people would stand up to them." Alara shook her head, humility softening her expression. "I'm not brave. I just did what had to be done. Anyone would have." The child smiled, but her eyes held a secret, a recognition that Alara could not yet understand. "I wish my father could see you." Alara froze, a chill running down her spine. Something about that statement felt unusual. Before she could question it, the girl ran ahead toward her home, disappearing into the village streets. Alara lingered for a moment, heart still racing, then turned to make her way back. Her life had been quiet, ordinary, and unnoticed, but she could feel that something had shifted. That act of courage, done out of instinct and compassion, had set events in motion that she could not yet imagine. Back in her modest home, Alara tended to her chores with a distracted mind. Every moment replayed the encounter in the forest. The fear in the child's eyes, the shock of facing danger, and the exhilarating rush of standing against those who would harm someone weaker. It had been terrifying, yes, but empowering in ways she had never known. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the village settled into evening quiet. Alara sat outside, watching the stars emerge one by one, wondering how a single act of courage could ripple outward and touch lives far beyond her understanding. Little did she care. Now, her bravery had reached ears far above the village, ears that belonged to the Alpha King himself. Kale, the Alpha King, ruler of the kingdom and the protector of all his people, had already been informed of the incident. His niece had been saved by a mysterious Omega girl whose courage had defied expectation. The details were sparse, but the message was clear: someone remarkable had intervened when danger threatened the innocent. Kale's piercing eyes narrowed as he studied the reports. "Find her," he commanded his guards. "I want to meet the Omega who has such courage, for she may prove invaluable to the kingdom." Back in her small home, Alara remained unaware of the storm her actions had set in motion. She cleaned the last of the day's tools, humming softly to herself, unaware that her life was about to change forever. The simple Omega who had acted out of instinct and compassion was about to be thrust into a world of royalty, responsibility, and revelation. One that would test her courage in ways she could never have imagined. That night, as the wind whispered through the valley and the moonlight bathed the village in silver, Alara felt a flicker of unease, though she could not explain it. Something had shifted, though she did not yet know what. A path had opened before her, a path that would lead her from obscurity to recognition, from simple survival to extraordinary destiny. And deep within the castle walls, Kale's thoughts lingered on the unknown Omega. He did not yet know her face, her name, or her abilities fully. But he sensed a power beyond her status, a courage that could change everything. The wheels of fate had begun to turn, and neither Alara nor the Alpha King could know just how intertwined their lives would soon become. The morning sun bathed the castle in gold, casting long shadows over the high walls and spires of the Alpha King's stronghold. Inside the grand hall, Kale, the Alpha King, sat upon his elevated throne, his silver hair catching the sunlight streaming through the windows. Reports were being brought to him constantly: skirmishes on the outskirts of the kingdom, bandit movements, and the safety of his family. Yet today, a report arrived that drew his attention more sharply than any other. A child had been saved from rogues by an Omega girl, humble and unassuming, whose courage had defied all expectation. Kale's piercing gaze focused on the messenger as he knelt respectfully before him. "Your Majesty, the Omega girl," she acted with remarkable skill. The child was saved without a scratch. No one knows her name, only that she lives in the valley village on the eastern border. Kale's jaw tightened. An Omega, yet brave enough to face armed rogues and save my niece? That is unusual. His mind replayed every detail he had here. The courage, the cleverness, the way she had protected the child without hesitation. The messenger continued, "The villagers speak highly of her, sire. They call her selfless and courageous. Some even say she has a certain presence, though none of them know what it means exactly." Kale leaned forward, his hands resting on the arms of his throne. "Prepare scouts. I want her found discreetly. Do not alarm her or the villagers. I wish to observe this Omega firsthand. If she is as capable as reported, she could be invaluable." "Yes, Your Majesty," the messenger replied before bowing and exiting. Kale remained seated, his mind in motion. An Omega who could stand against rogues, who could think and act quickly under pressure, and who had instinctively protected a child from danger. This girl was extraordinary. She was not merely brave, she possessed intelligence, resourcefulness, and courage that could rival the best of his warriors. And Kale, ever watchful and protective, felt a pull of curiosity he had not experienced in years. Meanwhile, in her small village, Alara continued her quiet life, unaware that her actions had reached the castle. She went about her chores, fetching water, tending to animals, and helping neighbors as she always had. The day seemed ordinary, though the memory of the child she had saved lingered in her mind. That memory brought both pride and unease, pride for having acted courageously, and unease because of the danger she had faced. As Alara worked, she noticed subtle glances from the villagers, whispers that stopped abruptly when she approached. I wonder what they mean, she thought, a flicker of curiosity and caution crossing her mind. Rumors traveled fast in small communities, and she had a feeling that the story of her actions was spreading beyond her control. Back in the castle, Kale's scouts were preparing to depart. He had assigned his most discreet and capable agents to locate Alara without alerting the villagers. Observe her first, Kale instructed them. Do not interfere unless necessary. I wish to understand the Omega before making any decisions. Watch her courage, her intellect, and her character. That is what matters. The scouts nodded, setting off on the trail toward the eastern valley. They moved with precision, noting the landscape, the villages, and the routines of the people. They watched Alara from a distance, seeing her assist neighbors, protect animals from danger, and act decisively when small challenges arose. Even in mundane moments, her sharp mind and unassuming bravery were evident. One scout whispered to another, "She is remarkable. Even doing daily tasks, she carries herself with authority, though she is an Omega. Rare to see such presence." The other nodded. "The king is wise to observe her. She may be more important than we think." Alara, meanwhile, remained oblivious to the attention she had drawn. She went about her day, unaware that her life was about to change dramatically. That evening, a messenger arrived in her village, an official from the palace, tasked with observing her without causing alarm. He noted her actions, her interactions, and her temperament, impressed by her courage, intelligence, and humility. When the messenger returned to the castle, he reported in detail. Kale listened intently, his silver eyes focused. "She is exactly as I suspected," he said softly. "Courage, intellect, humility, a rare combination. She is more than a simple Omega. I will meet her soon, personally. Her actions have earned my attention, and perhaps, she has a role to play in the kingdom that she does not yet understand." That night, Kale stood upon the castle battlements, looking toward the distant valley where Alara lived. The moon cast silver light over the mountains and forests, and he felt a strange sense of anticipation. This Omega girl, unknown and humble, had altered the course of events simply by acting bravely and selflessly. Her courage had reached him, and he knew that her life, and the life of the kingdom, would soon be intertwined in ways neither of them could yet imagine. Alara, on the other hand, returned to her modest home as the village quieted for the night. She lit a small lantern, preparing a simple meal, and reflected on the day's events. She did not yet know that her act of bravery had captured the attention of the Alpha King himself. She did not yet know that the palace, its guards, and even Kale's own eyes were focused on her. She did not yet know that her quiet, humble life was about to change forever. But fate, as it often does, had begun to move. The threads of destiny were weaving together, the humble Omega who had acted out of instinct and compassion, and the powerful Alpha King who ruled the kingdom with wisdom and strength. Soon, their paths would cross, and Alara's courage would set her on a journey she had never imagined, into the heart of the palace, into the life of royalty, and into a destiny that would challenge, shape, and define her forever. As the first stars appeared in the night sky, Kale whispered to himself, "I will find you. Whoever you are, Omega, your courage has not gone unnoticed." And deep within the valley, Alara dreamed, unaware that the winds of fate were carrying her toward a life she had never dared to imagine, a life filled with challenges, discovery, and the extraordinary truth of who she was meant to become. The morning air was crisp and filled with the scent of fresh bread, herbs, and dew-covered earth as Alara walked through the village marketplace. Her basket was light, filled with a few simple items she had purchased to supplement her modest home. Life had returned to its quiet rhythm after the incident with the child, though the memory of her courage lingered, warming her from within and reminding her that she was capable of more than she had believed. Unbeknownst to Alara, she was being watched. From the shadows of the marketplace, a figure in a dark cloak observed her every movement. The silver-haired man, his eyes piercing and alert, noted how she helped an elderly merchant pick up fallen crates, how she guided a lost child to their parents, and how her movements, though unassuming, carried a confidence and decisiveness beyond what most in the village possessed. Kale, the Alpha King, had come in disguise to witness the Omega Girl himself. Reports could only tell him so much, and he trusted little beyond his own eyes. As he followed her through the streets, he marveled at her courage, humility, and intelligence. Even in mundane moments, she radiated a quiet strength that demanded attention without seeking it. Alara paused at a stall to purchase some herbs, smiling politely at the vendor. A small commotion arose as a scrawny boy, trying to impress, accidentally knocked over a stack of produce. The vendor cursed under his breath, frustrated, and the other villagers murmured, ready to scold the child. Alara stepped forward, kneeling beside the boy to help him gather the spilled fruits and vegetables. "It's all right," she said softly, her voice kind but firm. "Accidents happen. Let's clean this up together, shall we?" The boy looked at her, wide-eyed and grateful, while the vendor watched with a skeptical expression that slowly softened. Kale's lips twitched in a small, approving smile. Even in this simple act, Alara's character shone through: compassion, patience, and leadership without command. As the marketplace settled, a sudden shout arose from the outskirts of the village. A group of rogue thieves had entered, attempting to snatch valuables from the stalls. The villagers panicked, scattering in fear. Alara, heart-pounding, assessed the situation quickly. There were no guards nearby, and the thieves were closing in on several defenseless vendors. Instinct took over. She grabbed a long wooden staff from a nearby stall and stepped forward. "Stop," she commanded, her voice carrying across the square. "Leave the villagers alone, or you will regret it." The thieves laughed, underestimating the Omega before them. One stepped forward, brandishing a knife. "And what will you do, little girl? We're armed. You can't even defend yourself." Alara didn't falter. Instead, she moved with precision, striking the nearest thug with the staff and knocking him off balance. The others hesitated, surprised by her speed and skill. Using her surroundings, he knocked over baskets and barrels to create obstacles, slowing their advance and buying time for the villagers to flee. Kale watched silently, his eyes narrowing in admiration. She was not a trained warrior in the palace sense, yet her resourcefulness, courage, and quick thinking allowed her to confront danger effectively. Even more impressive was her calm composure. Fear did not cloud her judgment, she used it to sharpen her instincts. The thieves, frustrated and disoriented, finally retreated into the forest, leaving the village intact. Villagers cheered and whispered in awe of Alara's bravery. She lowered her staff, breathing heavily, and glanced around at the people she had protected. "Are you all right?" she asked softly to the vendors and frightened villagers. "Yes, thanks to you," an elderly man said, shaking his head. "I've never seen such courage in someone so humble." Alara's cheeks flushed slightly, but she shook her head. "I just did what anyone should have done." Kale stepped forward, still in disguise, and observed her closely. He noted the way she treated the frightened, how she maintained calm under pressure, and how her actions inspired others rather than seeking recognition. This was a girl of rare character, and he felt a pull of both curiosity and respect. He decided to approach. "You have remarkable courage," he said, his voice low but carrying authority. "Not many would face danger as you did, and fewer would do so to protect others without hesitation." Alara looked up, startled by the stranger's presence. Her eyes widened slightly as she studied him, noting the strength in his posture and the confidence in his voice. I was just trying to help," she stammered. "I didn't think of courage. You acted with wisdom and bravery," he interrupted gently. "Most would have run. You stayed. You protected. That matters more than you realize." Alara's heart raced. There was something unusual about this man, an aura of authority that set him apart from anyone she had ever met. Yet she could not place him, nor did she understand why he was speaking to her with such focus. Thank you," she whispered, humility evident in her tone. "But I am just a simple Omega. There's nothing extraordinary about me." Kale smiled faintly, though a flicker of amusement crossed his eyes. "Do not underestimate yourself. Courage, intelligence, and integrity are rare qualities, and you possess them in abundance." The moment was interrupted by a sudden shout from the other side of the marketplace. Another small child had wandered too close to the forest edge, and a dog pack was approaching aggressively. Without hesitation, Alara moved toward the child, her focus sharp. Kale followed silently, intrigued by her instinctive leadership. She coordinated the villagers calmly, guiding the child away and using her knowledge of the terrain to prevent harm. By the time the danger had passed, Kale's mind was made up. She is extraordinary, he murmured to himself. Not because of status, but because of courage, intelligence, and heart. She must be brought to the palace. She must be guided and protected. Alara, unaware of the significance of this encounter, returned to her chores, her thoughts on the day's events. She had acted out of instinct and compassion, yet she felt a strange sense of anticipation, as though her life had shifted slightly on its axis. She did not know that her actions had caught the attention of the Alpha King himself, the ruler of the kingdom, a man whose eyes missed nothing, and whose judgment was unparalleled. Kale, observing from a discreet distance, finally turned to leave. "I will meet you properly soon," he whispered to himself. "Omega, your courage has not gone unnoticed." And so, the first encounter had occurred, quiet, unassuming, and yet monumental. Alara remained the humble Omega of her village, unaware that the threads of destiny had begun to weave around her. Kale, the Alpha King, had seen her true character, and that vision would set the course for both their lives, intertwining courage, destiny, and the unfolding journey that would soon take Alara from obscurity to the heart of the palace. The castle gates loomed high above Alara as she approached for the first time. Their towering stone walls seemed to stretch endlessly into the sky, adorned with intricate carvings of past alphas and scenes of battles long ago. She had never been this close to royalty, never imagined a life beyond her village, and yet here she was, standing at the threshold of the Alpha King's domain. Her heart raced as the palace guards led her through the grand corridors. Every detail overwhelmed her. Polished marble floors, tapestries depicting legendary warriors, and the soft murmur of courtiers and staff going about their duties. The air smelled faintly of incense and polished wood, a stark contrast to the earth and herbs of her village. A guard motioned for her to wait outside a grand hall, and moments later, the doors opened. A figure entered, moving with grace and authority, Kale, the Alpha King himself. His silver hair shimmered in the sunlight that poured through the high windows, his presence commanding without intimidation. "Alara," he began, his voice deep yet measured, carrying the weight of leadership, "you have displayed courage and wisdom that surpasses most. I have watched your actions, learned of your bravery, and seen how you protect those weaker than yourself. For that, you have earned my attention." Alara bowed quickly, her hands trembling slightly. "Your Majesty, I did only what Anion would have done. There is no bravery in saving a child, only necessity." Kale studied her carefully, a flicker of amusement in his eyes. "Modesty is a strength, Omega. But courage, wisdom, and resourcefulness are qualities that cannot be taught, they must be inherent. You possess them in abundance." Her cheeks flushed at the praise, but she remained composed. "I am honored that you think so, Your Majesty. Truly, Kale raised a hand to pause her. "I am not here merely to praise you, Alara. I am here because the kingdom has a need for someone like you, someone capable, brave, and intelligent. I would like to offer you a role as protector of my family, particularly the young members of the royal household." Alara froze, astonishment rooted in her very core. Protector of the royal family? Her mind spun. She, a humble Omega from a small valley village, tasked with guarding the heirs of the kingdom? It seemed impossible. I am not worthy, Your Majesty," she said softly, shaking her head. "I am but a simple village girl. I have no training, no experience among nobles or warriors of the castle. I could not." Kale approached, his gaze steady and unwavering. "Training can be given, experience gained. What cannot be taught is heart, courage, and judgment. You have already demonstrated these qualities. That is why you are the only one I would consider for this role." Alara lowered her eyes, feeling the weight of the responsibility Kale was offering. She could not deny the allure of the role, of standing up for others, of using her skills to protect those who could not protect themselves. And yet fear lingered at the edges of her heart. "It is a great honor, Your Majesty, but I fear I may fail." Kale's expression softened. "Fear is natural, Omega. Courage is not the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. You have already proven this once. I trust you will do so again. Her chest tightened as she absorbed his words. Something about Cale, his authority, his calm conviction, his understanding of her abilities, filled her with a mixture of awe and determination. She felt a spark of confidence she had never known. If you believe I can, then I will do my best, she said finally, her voice steady despite the tremor of nerves beneath it. Cale inclined his head slightly, approvingly. That is all I ask, Alara. Your first duty will be to understand the palace, its routines, and the young charges you will protect. Observation, awareness, and preparation are as important as courage. The safety of this household rests not only on strength but on intelligence and foresight. The rest of the day was spent introducing Alara to the staff and young members of the royal household. She observed their routines, learned their personalities, and discovered small vulnerabilities that could become risks if left unchecked. She moved quietly, noting everything from patrol patterns to hidden exits, her mind cataloging details with the precision of someone determined to protect those entrusted to her care. Throughout her introduction, Cale remained nearby, watching her keenly. She spoke little, but her presence was commanding without arrogance, kind without being indulgent. Her intuition guided her actions, allowing her to anticipate problems before they arose. Even the youngest of the royal children seemed to sense her protective instinct, gravitating toward her as someone safe, reliable, and aware. As evening fell, Cale led her to a balcony overlooking the palace gardens. The sky was painted in golds and purples, the first stars beginning to pierce the fading light. Alara, he said, his tone quieter now, do not underestimate yourself. You are capable of more than you realize. You will face challenges here that surpass anything in your village. But I believe in your ability to rise to them. Alara swallowed, the enormity of the day pressing upon her. I will do my best, Your Majesty, she whispered. For the children, for the kingdom, and for those who cannot protect themselves. Cale's expression softened, a rare warmth in his eyes. That is all I ask. Prepare yourself, Omega. Your life is about to change in ways you cannot yet imagine. And know this, I will ensure you have the guidance, training, and support you need. You will not face this alone. For the first time, Alara felt the magnitude of her journey. She had saved a child in the forest, unaware of the royal connection, and now she had been brought into the palace, tasked with a role she had never dreamed possible. The weight of responsibility pressed on her shoulders, but it was tempered with the quiet thrill of purpose. As the stars twinkled above the palace, Alara realized something profound. Her courage had brought her here, but it was her heart, judgment, and insight that would determine her future. She would learn, adapt, and grow into this role, not for glory, not for praise, but because it was necessary. Because someone had to protect those who could not protect themselves. And Cale, the Alpha King, watched silently from the balcony beside her, recognizing that this humble Omega was unlike anyone he had ever encountered. She was fearless, intelligent, and capable beyond her years, and he knew, deep in his heart, that she would prove indispensable, not only to his family but to the kingdom itself. The palace, once a distant dream, was now her reality. The role of protector was hers, and with it came not just responsibility but purpose, growth, and the first threads of a bond that would shape both their lives. The Omega who had acted out of instinct and compassion in a small forest clearing had stepped into a new world, one of strategy, vigilance, and extraordinary destiny. And though neither of them could yet see the full path ahead, the first steps had been taken. Alara would rise to the challenge, not with arrogance, but with humility, courage, and a heart determined to protect. And Cale, the Alpha King, would watch, guide, and rely upon her in ways neither could yet predict, but both would come to trust her fully in the days to come. The first morning in the palace began with a chill in the air and the distant crowing of roosters echoing across the grounds. Alara awoke in her modest quarters, the pale light of dawn streaming through the narrow windows. Though the room was simple, it was cleaner, warmer, and more secure than her home in the village. Yet sleep had been elusive. Thoughts of the role Cale had entrusted to her, the responsibility of protecting the royal family, kept her mind racing through scenarios, risks, and potential failures. By the time she stepped into the training courtyard, the guards and palace instructors were already assembled. Kale stood at the center, his silver hair gleaming in the morning light, eyes scanning the group before settling on her. "Today marks the beginning of your training," he said, his voice steady but commanding. "Strength, awareness, strategy, and vigilance are not innate to everyone. They must be honed, tested, and mastered. You will be prepared for any challenge that may arise." Alara's hands clenched slightly at her sides. She had faced danger before, yes, but the idea of formal combat training in a palace courtyard, among elite warriors and under the watchful eyes of the Alpha King, made her pulse quicken. Still, determination surged within her. She would not falter. The instructors began with basic drills, stance, movement, and balance. Though seemingly simple, each motion carried weight and precision. Alara adapted quickly, her mind analyzing every action, correcting mistakes before they could become habits. Her previous experiences in the village, dodging dangers, and thinking quickly under pressure, gave her an edge the others had not anticipated. Kale observed quietly from the sidelines, noting how she moved, not with arrogance, but with focus and intent. She absorbed every instruction, anticipating adjustments, and demonstrating an intuitive understanding of technique. By mid-morning, even the instructors were impressed. "Very good, Omega," one commented, watching her execute a complex defensive maneuver. "You learn quickly, and your timing is precise. Rare for someone with no formal training." Alara nodded, acknowledging the praise but keeping her focus. "I am learning," she said simply. "Every motion matters if I am to protect those in danger." The next phase of training introduced strategy and observation. Kale led her through scenarios designed to simulate threats to the palace, intruders entering through hidden paths, attempts to bypass guards, and distractions intended to compromise her focus. Each exercise challenged her perception, decision-making, and ability to act decisively under pressure. In one scenario, a small group of masked attackers attempted to breach a side entrance. Alara had seconds to assess, react, and neutralize the threat. She moved swiftly, signaling guards with subtle gestures, blocking paths, and coordinating defenses without raising her voice. By the time the attackers were subdued, in the exercise, Kale's gaze was fixed on her, admiration clear. "You anticipate, you adapt, and you command," he said quietly as the guards dispersed. "This is rare. Most trained warriors take months to reach your level of situational awareness. You possess it innately." Alara's face flushed slightly, but she remained composed. "I am grateful for the instruction," she said. "I will continue to improve. Every second, every movement matters if lives are at stake." Over the next several days, the training intensified. Kale introduced her to combat techniques with wooden weapons, hand-to-hand defense, and even basic archery. Each session pushed her physical and mental limits, yet she met every challenge with focus, resilience, and determination. Despite fatigue, her mind remained sharp, analyzing patterns, weaknesses, and strengths. But training was not only physical. Kale emphasized strategy, foresight, and diplomacy. She learned to read people, anticipate behavior, and detect subtle shifts in tone, movement, and expression. These lessons were crucial. As a protector, she would face not only physical threats but political intrigue, betrayal, and deception. One afternoon, Kale led her through a simulation in which a member of the royal household was kidnapped by disguised palace staff. Alara had to track, negotiate, and secure the hostage without escalating violence. She studied footprints, listened for subtle sounds, and observed patterns of movement. With careful coordination, she located the hostage quickly, securing safety while minimizing conflict. Kale's approval was evident. "You understand that protecting lives is not always about confrontation," he explained. "Awareness, foresight, and patience are equally important. You have mastered this quickly, Alara. Few can manage both courage and restraint." As weeks passed, Alara became more confident. The palace staff and guards began to trust her judgment, noting her insight, decisiveness, and unwavering dedication. Even the youngest members of the royal household recognized her as a figure of safety and calm. Her presence became a quiet reassurance, her instincts an invisible shield. One evening, as training concluded, Kale walked beside her along the palace gardens. The sun dipped low, casting golden light across fountains, manicured hedges, and statues of past alphas. "You have adapted remarkably," he said. "Your courage, intelligence, and humility are rare. You will face challenges that test all these qualities, but I have confidence in your ability to endure and succeed." Alara glanced at him, her expression thoughtful. "I have learned much, Your Majesty. But I know there is still more to master. I do not wish to fail those I protect. Every lesson matters, every detail matters." Kale's lips curved into a faint smile. That awareness, that dedication, it is what makes a protector truly exceptional. "You are not merely learning skills, you are becoming indispensable." Her heart tightened, not with pride, but with the weight of responsibility. She had always believed herself ordinary, a simple Omega from a small village. Yet now, under Kale's guidance, she was becoming someone extraordinary, not for recognition or status, but because she had a purpose that mattered. Days turned into weeks, and Alara's training progressed further. She learned to anticipate attacks before they happened, to coordinate multiple guards silently, and to navigate the palace with an almost intuitive understanding of every corridor, gate, and hidden passage. She became proficient in situational awareness, defensive combat, and strategic planning. Throughout it all, Kale remained both observer and mentor. He pushed her, challenged her, and guided her, but never belittled or underestimated her. He trusted her judgment, and she rose to meet it every time. Their partnership, though formal and professional, began to deepen, a bond of mutual respect and reliance that neither could ignore. One night, after a particularly grueling day of drills and simulations, Kale found her sitting alone on a balcony, gazing at the stars. "You have progressed beyond my expectations," he said quietly, joining her at the railing. "Not because of training alone, but because of your heart, courage, and insight. You understand that protecting life is about foresight, not just strength." Alara looked down, a rare softness in her expression. "I am learning, Your Majesty. And I will continue. The children, the kingdom, their safety depends on vigilance, preparation, and clarity. I must be ready for anything." Kale's eyes held a flicker of admiration. "And you will be. You are becoming a protector not only of the royal household but of the ideals this kingdom stands for: courage, wisdom, and selflessness. You will face shadows, Alara. There will be threats that test every skill and every value you possess. But I know you will endure, and I trust you to act wisely when that day comes." The stars glittered above them, a silent witness to the bond forming between Alpha and Omega, mentor and protege, protector in charge. Alara, once a humble village girl, was no longer ordinary. She had stepped onto a path that demanded courage, wisdom, and heart, and she was rising to meet it. And Kale, the Alpha King, recognized something rare and invaluable. This Omega, through dedication and instinct, had become more than a student. She had become a crucial ally, a trusted shield, and someone whose presence would shape the future of the royal household and the kingdom itself. The trials had only begun, yet already Alara's growth was undeniable. With each lesson, each challenge, and each success, she was forging herself into the protector the kingdom needed, a beacon of courage and intelligence in a world where danger was never far away. The palace corridors were quiet that morning, a rare calm settling over the halls before the usual bustle of staff, courtiers, and young royals began. Alara moved carefully, her steps measured, her mind replaying the lessons of her training. She had grown adept at observing patterns, reading subtle shifts in the palace's daily rhythm, and anticipating potential problems before they escalated. Yet today, a strange unease tugged at her, something she could neither name nor ignore. It began with a simple discovery. While delivering supplies to the royal nursery, Alara noticed a folded piece of parchment tucked beneath a drawer. Curious, she picked it up and carefully unfolded it. The writing was elegant, the ink faded with age, but the words were unmistakable. References to a child born under unusual circumstances, a family secret, and a lineage that had been hidden from the world. Her pulse quickened. Could it be? The words were vague, yet the implication was clear. There was a hidden truth about one of the Omega girls connected to the palace, someone who had been separated from her family for reasons not explained. Alara's hands trembled slightly as she read, her mind racing. Was this merely a record of past events, or could it somehow relate to her own origins? She tucked the parchment into her sleeve, careful to leave the room exactly as she had found it. For the rest of the morning, her thoughts were a swirl of questions. She performed her duties with precision, yet her focus wavered, her attention divided between her responsibilities and the cryptic text she carried. Later that afternoon, Kale approached her as she reviewed the palace's security arrangements. "You seem distracted, Alara," he observed, his sharp eyes noting the subtle tension in her posture. "Is something troubling you?" Alara hesitated, weighing her words. "I found something unusual, Your Majesty. A record, a note, suggesting a hidden lineage within the palace. I am not sure if it concerns me, but it has left me uneasy." Kale's expression remained unreadable, though a flicker of interest crossed his features. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. "You have reason to be cautious, Omega. The palace holds many secrets, some dangerous, some necessary. Not all knowledge is meant for everyone. But there is truth in what you have found. You are closer to that truth than you realize." Alara's eyes widened, the weight of his words settling on her. "Closer? What do you mean?" Kale studied her carefully, choosing his words. "There are forces in the kingdom that monitor lineage, loyalty, and bloodlines. Certain truths are kept hidden to protect both individuals and the kingdom. You, through courage, loyalty, and timing, have unknowingly touched one of these truths. It is why I watch you closely, why your role as protector is vital. You may be more significant to this palace than you currently understand." Her mind reeled. Could it be possible? She had always believed herself an ordinary Omega, humble and unremarkable. Yet the suggestion that her origins were intertwined with the royal family, or at least with a secret of the palace, left her both anxious and intrigued. Over the following days, Alara began noticing small details that had previously escaped her. Servants whispered her name with unusual reverence, often stopping when she entered a room. Certain guards, previously indifferent, now watched her closely, their eyes carrying unspoken acknowledgement. And fragments of conversations, half heard in corridors or during training, hinted at mysteries surrounding her arrival at the palace, her uncanny skill, and the way the royal children responded to her presence. Despite these clues, Kale maintained a careful distance. He offered guidance and instruction, but never forced revelations upon her. Instead, he allowed her to uncover fragments of truth at her own pace, ensuring that her confidence and judgment would grow alongside her understanding. One evening, while reviewing security arrangements near the eastern wing, Alara overheard a conversation between two senior guards. "She's unlike any Omega I've seen," one said. "There's something different about her. I can't put my finger on it, but the Alpha King's interest isn't just because of her bravery." The other guard nodded. "Agreed. And yet, she doesn't know it herself. The truth would shock her if revealed too soon. The king knows, though, he watches her carefully, waiting for the right moment." Alara's heart pounded. The hints were everywhere, yet the full truth remained just out of reach. She felt a mixture of fear and anticipation. Could her life really be tied to the royal lineage she had unknowingly served? Could her courage in the forest, her instinctive protection of the child, have been more than coincidence? Kale summoned her later that night to a private study within the palace. The room was dimly lit, shelves lined with ancient tomes and scrolls, and a single candle flickered on the desk. He gestured for her to sit. "Alara," he began, his tone deliberate, "I know you have begun to sense that your presence here is not ordinary. You are correct. There is more to your story than you currently understand. But the time for full revelation has not yet come. You must continue to grow, to prepare yourself for the challenges that will arise. Only then will you be ready to bear the truth." Alara nodded, though her mind raced. "I understand, Your Majesty. I will continue my duties and training, but the uncertainty is unsettling." Kale's gaze softened slightly. "Uncertainty is part of life, Omega. Courage is not the absence of fear or doubt, but the willingness to act despite them. You have proven that repeatedly. Trust in yourself, and in time, all truths will be revealed." As she left the study, Alara felt a strange mixture of relief and tension. Relief that Kale had acknowledged her concerns without admonishing her, tension because the puzzle of her own origins remained unsolved. She walked through the palace gardens, moonlight reflecting off the fountains, and allowed herself a moment of quiet reflection. Her mind drifted back to the forest, to the child she had saved, and to the simplicity of her life before the palace. That life seemed distant now, almost a dream. Yet the lessons she had learned, the courage she had discovered within herself, and the mysterious threads of her lineage all pointed to a future she could not yet fully grasp. The days turned into weeks, and with each passing moment, Alara's skills, awareness, and confidence grew. She navigated palace life with increasing ease, protecting the royal children, anticipating threats, and earning the trust of staff and guards alike. Yet the shadow of her past, the whispers of lineage, the cryptic documents, and the careful guidance of Kale, remained ever present, reminding her that her journey was far from complete. One night, as she sat quietly in her quarters, Alara made a silent vow. Whatever truths awaited her, she would face them with courage, integrity, and determination. She had been thrust into a world of power, secrets, and responsibility, yet she would rise to meet it, not for recognition, not for glory, but because it was her duty. And somewhere deep within the palace, Kale watched her progress, recognizing the strength, heart, and insight that set her apart. He knew that the Omega he had chosen for this role was extraordinary, not just for her courage, but for the hidden potential that had yet to reveal itself. The time would come when the shadows of the past would converge with the present, and Alara would stand ready. For now, she remained unaware of the full truth of her lineage, yet every action, every choice, and every challenge continued to shape her into the protector the kingdom, and perhaps her own destiny, demanded. The threads of past and present, courage and duty, secrecy and revelation, were weaving together, preparing Alara for the moment when shadows would finally give way to light. And when that moment came, she would be ready. The sun was beginning to dip behind the eastern towers, painting the palace walls in hues of gold and crimson, when the first warnings arrived. The palace sentries had spotted movement along the forested outskirts, small but coordinated, figures moving with the stealth and precision of those who had learned to strike quickly and disappear. Alara was reviewing the day's patrol schedules when Kale entered the training hall. His silver hair shimmered in the fading light, and his expression was unusually tense. "Alara," he said sharply, "the rogues from the eastern borders have returned. They've grown bolder. Scouts report their numbers are larger, and their tactics more organized. They aim for the palace tonight." Alara's heart skipped a beat, but she quickly suppressed fear. Her training, her preparation, and her instincts came to the forefront. "What is the current perimeter security?" she asked, her voice calm and precise. Kale gestured toward a large map laid across the table. "Guards are stationed at all primary entry points, but the forest border is vast. If they attempt a diversion, the children could be at risk before we intercept them. That is where you come in. You must anticipate their moves and ensure the royal household remains safe." Alara nodded, determination steadying her voice. "I understand. We will cover all vulnerable points and monitor the forest approaches. I will coordinate with the guards to create a layered defense, focusing on both visibility and rapid response." By twilight, the palace was on high alert. Lanterns glowed along walls, guards patrolled in overlapping circuits, and Alara moved among them like a conductor orchestrating a delicate symphony. Her mind analyzed every possible approach, every weak point in the defenses, and every potential distraction the rogues could exploit. From her vantage point atop the western watchtower, she observed the forest edge. Shadows moved, small figures advancing cautiously, testing the perimeter. Alara signaled quietly to nearby guards, who adjusted positions, closing gaps and covering blind spots. The rogue's first attempt to breach the perimeter was thwarted, a testament to her foresight and coordination. But the true challenge came shortly after. A larger contingent of rogues attempted a diversion on the northern gate while another group aimed to slip through a lesser-known exit near the eastern tower. Alara's mind raced, calculating positions, timing, and responses. She dispatched guards to intercept the northern threat while she moved toward the eastern approach, guiding the defense silently but decisively. When the rogue group reached the eastern passage, they were met not by chaos but by strategic resistance. Barricades had been subtly shifted into their path, guards positioned to anticipate their movements, and Alara herself moved swiftly to create obstacles and redirect the attackers. Using her understanding of the terrain and the palace layout, she guided the rogues into a controlled area where they could be contained without endangering the royal children. The leader of the rogue contingent, a wiry man with calculating eyes, scowled as his plans unraveled. How did they anticipate us?" he muttered. His men struggled against the organized defense, quickly realizing that their attack was no longer a simple raid but a coordinated challenge they could not overcome. Alara remained calm, her focus absolute. She signaled the guards to encircle the rogues, leaving no path for escape, and ensured that all entrances to the royal quarters were secure. When Kale arrived at the scene, he observed from a distance, silently impressed. "You acted swiftly and decisively," Kale said quietly, approaching her once the situation was under control. "Your strategy minimized risk to the household and neutralized the threat without unnecessary confrontation. This is exactly the level of protection I expected from you, Alara." Alara allowed herself a small exhale, though her mind remained alert. It was necessary to anticipate their tactics and respond without hesitation. Any delay could have endangered the children. "I could not allow that." Kale's silver eyes studied her, a mixture of respect and subtle pride evident. "You have proven yourself once again, not merely in courage, but in judgment, foresight, and leadership. You are becoming indispensable, Alara. The palace, the royal family, all are safer because of you." The rogues were captured or routed, their threat neutralized by Alara's strategic mind and unwavering courage. The palace resumed its usual calm, though whispers of the Omega girl's valor spread quickly among the guards and staff. She had not sought recognition, yet her actions could not be ignored. That evening, Kale summoned her to the private balcony overlooking the gardens. The stars twinkled above, their light reflected in the fountains below. "Tonight," he said quietly, "you have demonstrated the full measure of your abilities, not only in skill but in courage, strategy, and composure. You are now truly the protector of this household." Alara felt the weight of his words settle over her, a mix of pride and responsibility. "I will continue to improve," she replied, determination steady in her tone. "I cannot fail those who depend on me, Your Majesty. Every day, every action matters." Kale nodded, approval evident. "Indeed. And know this, Alara. You have exceeded even my expectations. Your courage, intelligence, and foresight are unmatched among those I have trained. The kingdom is fortunate to have you." Though the danger of the rogue threat had passed, the experience left Alara both exhilarated and contemplative. She realized the full extent of her role, the lives she protected, the strategies she must employ, and the constant vigilance required. Her training had prepared her for this moment, yet every challenge reminded her that growth was ongoing, and responsibility was ever present. That night, she walked the palace corridors alone, reflecting on the day's events. She had faced danger, anticipated threats, and safeguarded those under her care. The children she protected would sleep soundly, unaware of the peril that had passed. And for the first time, she truly understood the depth of her role, not as a servant or observer, but as a guardian, a shield, and a strategist entrusted with life itself. Kale, observing from his private chambers, allowed himself a rare moment of satisfaction. He had chosen well. The Omega he had entrusted with the protection of his household had proven herself beyond measure. Her courage, intelligence, and insight had saved lives tonight, and he knew that she would rise to face whatever challenges the future held. The rogue threat, though neutralized, was only the beginning. In a world filled with hidden dangers, political intrigue, and unforeseen challenges, Alara's role as protector would continue to test her abilities, courage, and judgment. Yet she had proven herself ready, and Kale trusted her implicitly. As the palace settled into quiet for the night, the bond between Alpha and Omega strengthened, built on trust, respect, and shared purpose. Alara had stepped fully into her role, no longer just a humble girl from a village, but the guardian of a kingdom, the shield of a royal household, and a force whose courage and insight would shape the destiny of all she served. And though she did not yet know the full truth of her lineage, her actions had begun to carve her place within the palace, and within Kale's eyes. She had faced danger, triumphed through courage and strategy, and proved that she was not merely capable, but extraordinary. The night was calm, but Alara knew that shadows still lingered, threats unseen, secrets unspoken, and challenges yet to come. Yet with every heartbeat, every decision, and every step, she grew stronger, sharper, and more resolute. The palace, the royal family, and the kingdom itself rested in her hands, and she would not fail. The palace library was vast and silent, the smell of aged parchment and polished wood filling the air. Alara had been sent to retrieve historical records, an errand that seemed routine at first. But as she moved among the towering shelves, a sense of anticipation gripped her. Something about this task felt different, as if the library itself was holding its breath, waiting for a secret to emerge. As she scanned the shelves, her eyes fell on a small, leather-bound journal, tucked away behind volumes of royal decrees. It was unassuming, almost hidden, yet the weight of the leather in her hands suggested importance. With careful hands, she opened the journal and began to read. The entries were detailed, chronicling events from decades past. A royal omega giving birth under secrecy, whispers of a child hidden from the public, and notes on protecting a lineage that carried both political and mystical significance. Alara's heart pounded as she read further, each word seeming to pulse with personal resonance. Her hands shook slightly as she realized the truth. The journal spoke of her. Every description, the courage, the instincts, the rare intuition, matched her own experiences and abilities. Her birth had been concealed to protect her from those who might exploit her heritage, and she had been placed in a distant village for her safety. A flood of emotions surged through her: disbelief, awe, fear, and an undeniable sense of belonging. She was not merely an ordinary omega from a humble village. She was the daughter of a royal bloodline, intricately tied to the Alpha King she had served and protected. Before she could process the full weight of this revelation, Kale entered the library. His presence was quiet but commanding, his gaze immediately drawn to the journal in her hands. "I see you have found the record," he said softly. It was only a matter of time. Alara looked up, eyes wide with a mixture of shock and curiosity. It's true? All of this, about me?" Kale nodded, stepping closer. "Yes. You were the child spoken of in these pages. Your life was hidden to protect you from those who would use your lineage for their own gain. The village that raised you did so unaware of the significance of your heritage. And yet, your courage, insight, and instincts, qualities that have guided you to this point, were never hidden. They were always yours, ready to emerge when destiny required." Tears welled in Alara's eyes, a mixture of relief and wonder. "All these years, I never knew. I thought I was ordinary. I thought my life, my choices, were insignificant." Kale's expression softened, a rare warmth illuminating his features. "You were never ordinary, Alara. Courage and wisdom are not measured by birth alone. They are forged in actions, in decisions, in how one faces the world. You have proven yourself repeatedly. Now, you understand why I chose you, not merely as a protector, but because your bloodline and your character are inseparable from the future of this kingdom." Alara swallowed hard, the enormity of her revelation settling over her. Her life, once simple and predictable, had been irrevocably transformed. Yet alongside the shock came clarity. Every step she had taken, the courage in the forest, the dedication to her training, the vigilance against rogues, had been leading to this moment. Kale continued, his voice steady and measured. "Your presence here, your actions, and your decisions have already shaped events in ways most could not comprehend. Now you know your heritage, and with that knowledge comes responsibility. You are both protector and heir, though not in the sense of ruling, but in the sense of shaping the destiny of those around you." Alara's mind raced, yet a profound sense of purpose settled within her. I understand, Your Majesty. I will continue to protect the royal household, the kingdom, and I will honor the lineage I never knew I had." Kale nodded approvingly. "That is all I ask. Your courage, wisdom, and heart are now complemented by knowledge of your true heritage. Together, we will ensure the safety and stability of the kingdom. Your path is extraordinary, Alara, but you are ready for it." The revelation transformed her perspective. She moved through the palace with renewed confidence, aware that her every action carried significance beyond mere duty. Guards and staff now seemed to regard her with heightened respect, though none fully understood the truth she now carried. And the royal children she protected responded to her with a deeper sense of recognition, as if instinctively aware of her significance. Over the following days, Kale guided her through the nuances of her heritage. He explained the alliances, responsibilities, and expectations that came with her lineage, emphasizing discretion and humility. Alara absorbed the information with focus, determined to master not only her training and duties but also the legacy she had inherited. One evening, as they walked through the palace gardens, Kale spoke of trust and destiny. Alara, your life is now intertwined with this kingdom in ways that few can imagine. Your courage, insight, and actions will influence events far beyond these walls. Yet remember, lineage is not destiny. Choice is. You have the power to shape your path, and I have every confidence that you will do so with wisdom and integrity. Alara nodded, the weight of his words settling over her like a mantle she was ready to bear. I will not forget who I am, Your Majesty. I will not forget the lessons I have learned, the people I protect, or the responsibilities I now carry. Kale regarded her silently for a moment, then allowed a rare, approving smile. Good. That is the spirit of a true protector, and of one whose bloodline carries both duty and honor. Though her life had changed irrevocably, Alara felt a sense of clarity she had never known. The uncertainties of the past, the shadows of hidden lineage, and the challenges of her new role were no longer obstacles but elements she could navigate with courage, wisdom, and heart. As the stars sparkled above the palace, Alara realized that her journey was far from over. Threats would arise, secrets would continue to surface, and challenges would demand every ounce of her courage and insight. Yet now she knew who she was, what she represented, and why her life had led her to this moment. Kale, observing her growth, recognized the rare convergence of courage, intellect, and bloodline. Alara had proven herself as protector and strategist, and now, as the rightful heir of her hidden lineage, she embodied a strength that would shape the kingdom for generations. The palace, once a distant dream, was now the center of her destiny. And though the world outside held dangers yet unseen, Alara faced the future with unwavering resolve, ready to embrace the full measure of her heritage, her role, and the extraordinary path that lay ahead. The morning sun had barely touched the palace towers when the first signs of trouble appeared. Courtiers whispered in hushed tones, guards exchanged uneasy glances, and the air itself seemed tense with the weight of an unseen threat. Alara had sensed it before the reports even reached the council chambers, a subtle shift in the palace energy, a pattern in movements, a quiet tension among those who should have been calm. She was reviewing security arrangements when Kale entered, his expression grim. Alara, he said, voice low and precise, there is a matter that requires your immediate attention. A group of nobles from the outer provinces has arrived unexpectedly. They bring claims, accusations, and intentions that may destabilize the balance we maintain here. Alara's brow furrowed. Accusations? Against the royal family? Or, against me? Kale studied her carefully, then nodded slightly. Some accusations are directed at the household. Some are subtle hints questioning your loyalty, your intentions, even your heritage. The timing is deliberate. They seek to test your judgment and provoke conflict. You must be vigilant, but measured. Her chest tightened. The revelation of her lineage had been recent, a secret now known only to Kaelin D herself. She had believed understanding her heritage would strengthen her position. But now she realized that knowledge could also be a weapon in the hands of those who wished to manipulate, challenge, or undermine her. She moved swiftly through the palace, observing the new arrivals from a distance. Their eyes were sharp, calculating, and their whispers carried an undercurrent of intrigue. Every movement they made suggested careful plotting, testing the reactions of both guards and courtiers alike. Alara's instincts, honed through weeks of training and the rogue threat, guided her observations. She noted the subtle signs, a servant unusually attentive to their requests, guards adjusting positions without explanation, and fleeting glances that sought to provoke suspicion. Each observation was a clue, a thread that could unravel their intentions if followed with care. Kale approached her as she quietly relayed her findings. "You have anticipated much," he said, a flicker of admiration in his eyes. "But be cautious. Their purpose is not only to destabilize the household but also to test your loyalty. You must remain unshakable." Alara nodded, her resolve firm. "I understand. My loyalty is to the children, the palace, and the kingdom. Nothing will sway my judgment." The nobles, sensing resistance, escalated their efforts. Subtle suggestions and carefully phrased questions began to challenge Alara's decisions, questioning her intentions, her observations, and even her interactions with the royal children. Some courtiers, swayed by fear or ambition, began to echo these concerns, creating a web of doubt that threatened to entangle even the most loyal guards. Alara remained calm, observing, analyzing, and responding with precision. She countered false claims with clear evidence, anticipated potential manipulations, and ensured the safety and well-being of the household remained uncompromised. Every decision she made reinforced her integrity, her courage, and her strategic mind. Yet the challenge was not merely external. Kale, though trusting her implicitly, tested her further, observing her interactions, evaluating her judgment, and noting how she handled pressure and uncertainty. It was a subtle but crucial measure. Loyalty could not be assumed, it had to be proven under scrutiny. The turning point came during a council session, where the nobles formally questioned her presence and her lineage. Their words were carefully designed to provoke suspicion, to undermine her authority, and to suggest that her hidden heritage made her unsuitable as protector. Alara stood before them, composed yet resolute. She recounted her actions during the rogue threat, detailing her strategic decisions, observations, and interventions. She spoke of her training, her knowledge of the palace, and her unwavering commitment to the royal household. Each word was deliberate, measured, and fortified by the truth of her deeds. Kale observed silently, his expression unreadable. Yet beneath it lay profound respect, knowing that Alara's composure and clarity would speak louder than any challenge or accusation. By the end of the session, the nobles' subtle manipulations had been dismantled. Evidence, logic, and unwavering courage left their claims hollow, and the courtiers who had wavered returned to their positions, reassured by the Omega's integrity. Alara's role as protector, strategist, and loyal servant of the royal household had been affirmed, not merely by Kale's trust, but by the scrutiny of those who sought to test her. She had faced the challenge, navigated the intrigue, and emerged with her judgment and loyalty unshaken. Later that evening, Kale found her in the palace gardens, the last rays of sunlight casting golden light over the fountains and hedges. "You have faced trials not merely of action, but of perception, loyalty, and judgment," he said quietly. "And you have prevailed. Your integrity, courage, and insight have been tested and proven." Alara allowed herself a small, reflective smile. It was a difficult challenge. They sought to manipulate fear, doubt, and secrecy. But I knew where my loyalty lay. I could not allow distractions to compromise those I protect. Kale's silver eyes held a rare warmth. Exactly. Courage alone is not enough. Wisdom, foresight, and steadfastness are equally vital. You have demonstrated all of these in full measure. Know this, Alara, your loyalty, proven through action and discernment, is beyond question. As the night deepened, the palace grew quiet, yet Alara remained alert, reflecting on the lessons of the day. Loyalty was not merely a declaration, it was tested, challenged, and proven through action, integrity, and judgment. She had faced manipulations, accusations, and subtle threats, and her choices had safeguarded the household, preserved trust, and reinforced the strength of the royal family. Her bond with Kale deepened as well, not through words or gestures, but through shared understanding, respect, and mutual reliance. He trusted her implicitly, not because of her lineage alone, but because she had demonstrated the heart, courage, and wisdom necessary to uphold her role. The nobles, having departed, would carry the memory of her strength, but it was Kale who mattered most. His trust, guidance, and quiet approval reinforced her confidence and her resolve. She had been tested and had emerged victorious, not through force alone, but through integrity, intelligence, and unwavering loyalty. As she gazed at the moonlit gardens, Alara felt a profound sense of purpose. She had faced deception, challenge, and scrutiny, and proven that her courage, insight, and loyalty were unshakable. The palace, the royal children, and the kingdom were safe, not merely because of her strength, but because of her discernment, judgment, and dedication. And though further trials surely awaited, Alara knew she was prepared. Her courage was steadfast, her mind sharp, and her heart committed. Loyalty was not a simple word, it was an active choice, demonstrated through every action, every decision, and every moment of vigilance. Tonight, she had chosen well. And Kale, observing from his chambers, recognized in her not only the Omega who had grown into a protector, strategist, and guardian, but also the daughter of a lineage whose legacy she was now embracing fully. She had proven herself under pressure, and he knew that whatever challenges the future held, she would rise to meet them with courage, intelligence, and unwavering loyalty. The palace, secure for now, remained a stage for destiny, intrigue, and trials yet unseen. And Alara, having faced the ultimate test of loyalty, was ready for whatever the world would demand next. The dawn broke over the palace with a golden hue, illuminating the towers, gardens, and courtyards in a light that seemed almost symbolic. For Alara, the morning carried an unusual weight, a mixture of anticipation, purpose, and calm resolve. Today was not merely another day of duty. Today was a culmination of her journey, the moment when her training, courage, and heritage converged to define her destiny. She moved through the palace halls with quiet confidence, aware of every sound, shadow, and movement. Guards and staff offered respectful nods, aware of her authority and competence, though none fully knew the full truth of her lineage. The royal children greeted her with smiles of trust, their confidence in her absolute, a reflection of the protection and guidance she had provided for so long. Kale met her in the courtyard, his silver hair catching the morning light, eyes sharp yet warm. "Today," he said, "will test not only your skills but your judgment, your wisdom, and your ability to lead. You have grown beyond the student I first trained. Now, you will act as protector, strategist, and guardian in full measure." Alara nodded, her expression calm and resolute. "I am ready, Your Majesty. Whatever challenges come, I will face them with clarity, courage, and loyalty." The first signs of unrest appeared shortly after the morning assembly. Scouts reported unusual movements at the forest's edge, strange figures advancing with intent, coordinated and silent. It was clear that the rogue groups from the eastern borders had returned, likely emboldened by previous failures. But Alara's confidence was unwavering. She had anticipated this, prepared for it, and was ready to act. She quickly coordinated with the palace guards, positioning forces strategically along likely paths of attack. Her understanding of the terrain, the palace layout, and the rogues' tactics allowed her to set traps, cover blind spots, and establish observation points. Every movement was calculated, precise, and effective. The rogue contingent arrived as anticipated, attempting to breach the palace from multiple points. But Alara was already several steps ahead. She guided the guards, adjusted defensive positions in real time, and used subtle signals to coordinate responses without the need for loud commands. The battle was one of strategy and foresight rather than brute force. The rogues, though skilled, found themselves funneled into controlled zones where they could be contained and neutralized efficiently. Alara moved with purpose, her decisions decisive and exact. She ensured that the royal household remained untouched, the children safe, and the palace defenses uncompromised. Kale observed from a high balcony, his gaze unwavering. He had trained her, guided her, and trusted her judgment. Now, watching her in action, he felt a rare mixture of pride and relief. She was not merely an Omega or a protector, she was the embodiment of courage, wisdom, and lineage, the very force that would uphold the kingdom's legacy. By mid-afternoon, the rogues had been captured or driven back. The palace was secure, the threat neutralized, and the guards' admiration for Alara evident in subtle nods and quick glances. She had acted not out of pride but out of duty, demonstrating a mastery of strategy, protection, and leadership that few could rival. Later, Kale called her to the private gardens. The fountains reflected the afternoon sun, and the flowers swayed gently in the breeze. "Alara," he said, voice quiet but firm, "today you have proven what I have known for some time. You are not only my protector but a guardian of the kingdom's future. Your courage, intelligence, and integrity have shaped the outcome of events today. You have fulfilled the purpose for which destiny brought you here." Alara's chest swelled with a mixture of humility and determination. "I only acted as duty demanded, Your Majesty. The palace, the children, the kingdom, they all matter more than my own recognition." Kale's silver eyes softened, a rare warmth in his expression. "That is precisely why you were chosen. Courage without humility is reckless. Strength without wisdom is dangerous. You possess both, Alara. You have proven yourself beyond question. For the first time since discovering her lineage, Alara allowed herself a moment of reflection. She thought of the humble village she had come from, the child she had saved, the training that had honed her instincts, and the challenges that had tested her courage. Every step had led to this moment, every choice had been preparation for the responsibilities she now embraced fully. As they walked together through the gardens, Kale spoke of trust, partnership, and the future. The kingdom faces challenges that will continue beyond today, he said. Yet with you by my side, I am confident in our ability to meet them. You are no longer just a protector. You are a vital force in shaping the future, wise, vigilant, and steadfast. Alara nodded, a sense of peace settling within her. I understand, Your Majesty. I will continue to serve, to protect, and to honor both my heritage and the lives entrusted to me. Whatever comes, I am ready. Kale regarded her with a quiet intensity. And that, Alara, is why I trust you implicitly. You have proven that loyalty, courage, and wisdom are inseparable from who you are. You are not merely the Omega who protects, you are the future, a beacon for all who look to this kingdom for stability, guidance, and hope. The days that followed were calm, yet Alara remained vigilant. She continued to patrol the palace, coordinate guards, and ensure that every aspect of the royal household's safety was maintained. Her actions were not driven by pride or ambition, but by dedication, insight, and the deep understanding of her role. In time, the palace staff, courtiers, and guards came to recognize her not only as protector but as an embodiment of courage, wisdom, and leadership. The royal children admired her, the household trusted her, and Kale, always discerning and observant, knew that she had fulfilled the promise of her destiny. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the palace in shades of gold and violet, Kale and Alara stood together overlooking the gardens. Silence hung between them, comfortable and profound, the weight of their shared experiences and victories unspoken yet understood. You have grown beyond any expectation, Kale said finally, voice soft yet resolute. Your journey from that forest to this moment has been extraordinary. You have embraced your role, your heritage, and your responsibility with courage, wisdom, and grace. Today, destiny has been fulfilled. Alara turned to him, her eyes reflecting both resolve and serenity. I have only done what was necessary, Your Majesty. But I understand now. I understand why my path has led me here, and I am ready for whatever the future holds. Kale's gaze lingered on her, a rare moment of quiet approval and acknowledgement. Then let the kingdom know, its guardian stands unwavering, its protector unshakable. You are no longer the girl who saved a child in the forest. You are the Omega who shaped the future, the shield of the royal household, and a vital part of this kingdom's legacy. The palace, bathed in twilight, stood as a testament to courage, vigilance, and destiny fulfilled. Alara, once humble and unaware of her heritage, now embodied the strength, wisdom, and integrity that the kingdom required. Every trial, every challenge, every choice had prepared her for this moment. And though the world beyond the palace walls would continue to hold dangers, uncertainties, and hidden threats, Alara faced it all with unwavering resolve. She had discovered her lineage, mastered her training, and proven her loyalty. She had earned her place not merely as protector, but as a guiding force whose courage and wisdom would shape the kingdom for generations. As stars appeared in the sky, shimmering above the towers and gardens, Alara stood tall, her heart steady, her mind sharp, and her purpose clear. Destiny had been fulfilled, not by chance, but through courage, wisdom, and unwavering dedication. And Kale, observing her from the balcony, knew that the kingdom, the royal household, and the future were in the safest, most capable hands possible. The journey had ended, not with a kiss or a gesture of romance, but with purpose, strength, and the fulfillment of a destiny forged through courage, loyalty, and insight. Alara, the Omega who had risen from humble beginnings to protect a kingdom and embrace her heritage, now stood ready to face whatever tomorrow would bring, with the certainty that she was exactly where she was meant to be.